Okay, class. So here's what we have. So we've talked about the absolute value, okay, and the definition of the absolute value, what it means, and we evaluated some absolute values. Now we're going to go over some properties of absolute value, okay? So again, you can look at examples of this, prove it to yourself, and things like that. But I'm going to go over them, okay? And these are true. And again, I'm going to throw some examples, and some of these we've already done, and we can intuitively see that these are true, okay? So, number one, so again, assume that A and B are real numbers for any real numbers A and B. One, the absolute value of A is going to be always non-negative, right? We've seen that, okay? So it's going to be greater than or equal to 0. Two, another property is that the absolute value of negative A is the same as the absolute value of A, right? That's also obvious. Three, if I take the absolute value of A times the absolute value of B, that's the same as if I take the product first and then take the absolute value of the product. So the product of the absolute values is equal to the absolute value of the products, okay? So this is also true. Likewise, if I take the quotient of two absolute values, that's equal to the absolute value of the quotient. So the quotient of the absolute value is the same and is always the same as the absolute value of the quotient. Okay? So I can combine these, just like I can combine these, so 3 and 4. Okay? Now, obviously, I can't have B be 0 for obvious reasons. I can't divide by 0, right? Now, 5 is not so obvious. But again, throw some examples out. Try to find an example that doesn't work. What this says is if I take the sum of two real numbers and I take the absolute value of the sum, and I take I split it up into the sum of two absolute values, right? And I add the absolute value of each one of these separately. This will be less than or equal to this. Always. Okay? And this is called the triangle inequality. Okay? So again, just as an example, right? So if I take negative 3 times 3, that's going to be what? That's going to be equal to what? 9. But if I take the absolute value of negative 3 times 3, that's going to equal the absolute value of negative 9, which equals 9. Right? Also, what about the triangle inequality? Let's just pick some numbers, right? Let's say A is equal to 7 or 6, and let's say B is equal to negative 1. Well, let's plug it in. So if I take the absolute value of 6 plus negative 1, what's that going to equal? That's going to equal the absolute value of 5, which is equal to 5. Okay, now I'm going to split it up. Let's take the absolute value of 6 plus the absolute value of negative 1. Well, that's going to equal what? This is going to equal 1, this is going to equal 6, that's going to equal 7. So look at that. It's less than, this is less than 7. So 5 is less than or equal to 7. That's true. Okay? That's just one example. Okay? Now, there's a proof to this, but we're not going to go over the proof. Okay? Suffice it to say, these are all properties that you must know and understand. Okay, that's it. Have a great day.